This is Mental Forge, where weakness burns and warriors are built. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, and before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is already tuned to one expectation: that success, in some form, will meet you today. You are not wondering whether it will happen. You are not bargaining with the universe to maybe send you a little luck. You are certain, in your bones, that it is inevitable. That expectation alone changes how you move, how you speak, and how others respond to you. But here is the truth most people never grasp. Expecting success is not a matter of naive optimism. It is a trained mental state, a practiced discipline, and like any skill, it can be built until it becomes your default operating system. When I say trained, I mean exactly that. You can take a mind that is cautious, doubtful, maybe even scarred from years of setbacks, and retrain it to expect favorable outcomes the way an athlete expects their body to respond on game day. It is not magic, though it will feel magical once it clicks. It is a blend of neuroscience, psychology, and centuries of wisdom distilled into daily habits. This is not about forcing yourself to smile and think positive. It is about reprogramming the mental filter that determines what you see, what you act on, and how you interpret the events of your life. Think about Thomas Edison in his cramped laboratory, stacks of failed prototypes cluttering every table. Most people imagine him as an unstoppable genius, but few realize his mind was conditioned to expect that every failure was just one step closer to a breakthrough. That is why, when others would see disaster, he saw data. He was not waiting for proof before he believed. His belief created the proof. That is what expecting success does. But here's the challenge. Your brain is already trained, whether you like it or not. If you've been unconsciously practicing self-doubt, scarcity, or pessimism, that wiring is strong. Changing it is like steering a massive ship. You can't turn it instantly. But the smallest shift in angle will completely change your destination over time. This is the principle behind compounding, the same principle that grows small daily investments into fortunes. One of the greatest lessons from Napoleon Hill's deep study of wealthy industrialists was this: the richest men of his era all had a dominating vision of their own success long before the evidence was there. Henry Ford did not wait until he had a factory to believe he could build affordable cars for the masses. He carried that expectation so strongly that his actions, his relationships, and his decisions bent reality toward it. This is not delusion. It's the deliberate alignment of thought and behavior toward a desired outcome. And neuroscience now backs this up. Your brain's reticular activating system, the gatekeeper between your conscious and subconscious mind, filters the billions of bits of sensory data you could notice at any moment. It lets through only what it deems important. If you have trained it to expect obstacles and danger, it will serve up endless proof of that. But if you condition it to expect solutions, opportunities, and progress, it will spotlight those instead. What you expect is what you notice, and what you notice is what you act on. We can start this training with something deceptively simple: the morning mental script. Before the day begins, you consciously prime your mind to look for specific wins, not vague, good-feeling specific. Maybe it's the perfect contact for your project. Maybe it's a solution to a problem that's been stuck for weeks. You speak these expectations internally as if they are already set in motion. Over time, your brain becomes a heat-seeking missile for these outcomes. Alexander the Great understood this principle in a different form. Before every campaign, he would tell his men, in detail, what they would accomplish, and how history would remember them. He spoke of victories not as distant possibilities but as completed facts, and his certainty infected his army. They fought as if the outcome were guaranteed, and that confidence alone often decided the battle before it began. You may not be leading troops into war, but you are leading your own mind into daily battles against fear, procrastination, and distraction. Now, there's something important here. Expecting success does not mean ignoring the possibility of setbacks. It means you train yourself to interpret setbacks as temporary and instructive, not defining. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote about the art of turning obstacles into fuel for progress. If the path is blocked, the obstruction becomes part of the path. That mindset only develops when you've conditioned yourself to see every twist in the road as serving the final destination, not derailing it. If you are serious about this, I want you to start seeing yourself as the architect of your mental environment. Your physical environment matters, your workspace, your health, your finances, but the mental architecture determines how you use them. And part of building that architecture is monitoring your inputs. If you feed your mind a steady diet of complaints, gossip, and scarcity thinking, you are training yourself to expect struggle. Switch that to books, conversations, and environments where success is the norm, and you will feel the shift. This is why Andrew Carnegie surrounded himself with men who could see possibilities where others saw limits. He understood that association is a form of mental programming. When you consistently interact with people who think big, take decisive action, and expect results, it rubs off on you. Your internal thermostat for what is normal and possible rises. Now, before we go deeper, I'll say this. If you're committed to mastering your mind, this channel is built for you. Subscribe right now so you don't miss the kind of conversations that keep your mindset sharp, your habits tight, and your vision expanding. Because this isn't about a single video, it's about rewiring how you think for the rest of your life. Let's bring it down to the level of daily practice. One exercise I recommend is the success audit. At the end of each day, write down 3 moments where things went right, no matter how small. This trains your brain to track wins instead of losses. Over weeks, this habit shifts your baseline mood and your default expectation. You start assuming tomorrow will hold more wins because you are feeding your mind evidence that they're always there. And here's where the slight edge principle kicks in. These small daily shifts don't feel monumental, but over months and years, they create an unstoppable trajectory. Leonardo da Vinci didn't become a master through a single burst of inspiration. It was relentless curiosity and daily experimentation that layered into genius. If you can commit to compounding mental training over the long term, the identity of a person who always expects success becomes second nature. Julius Caesar once crossed the Rubicon with his army, an act of no return, because he believed the outcome was already in his favor. His mindset was not a gambler's hope. It was the result of calculated preparation and an unwavering belief in his own capacity to adapt and win. When you expect success, you take bolder actions because you've already decided that you will find a way to make them work. This brings us to an essential shift, moving from reaction to creation. Most people live in reaction mode, letting the day dictate their energy, their choices, and their mood. When you train your brain to expect success, you flip that dynamic. You begin each day with an inner stance that says, I will shape what happens next. It doesn't mean controlling everything. It means directing your focus and responses so that even surprises serve your vision. Benjamin Franklin, in his early 20s, created a personal system of 13 virtues to guide his behavior. He tracked his progress daily, not because he was obsessed with perfection, but because he expected to become a man worthy of the success he sought. His system trained his brain to associate discipline with reward, turning self-improvement into a lifelong game he could win. Your own version of that might be a set of daily mental disciplines: morning visualization, a brief gratitude inventory, focused work sprints, evening reflection. Each is a repetition, a signal to your subconscious that success is not something you chase, but something you prepare for and claim. Over time, your self-image adjusts upward, and your actions naturally align with that image. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, walking into any room and carrying the quiet certainty that you belong there, that you can bring value, and that you can leave with something better than you arrived with. That presence alone changes your opportunities. People feel it, and they respond. Rockefeller carried that air long before he was the richest man in the world. It wasn't arrogance, it was the calm assurance of someone who had trained his mind to expect favorable outcomes and to act accordingly. This kind of certainty doesn't happen by accident. It comes from the consistent application of what we'll continue unpacking here: principles, exercises, and historical proof that your brain can be rewired to default toward victory. And the longer you practice, the more it will feel less like effort and more like breathing. The reason most people never reach this point is not because they lack intelligence or opportunity. It's because they try for a few days, don't see massive changes, and conclude it doesn't work. But the truth is, the greatest returns in life come from what you do repeatedly, not occasionally. The mental habits you repeat, even when no one is watching, are what shape your destiny. And this is where we need to explore the deeper layers of identity and belief, the roots beneath the habits. Because unless those are rewired, you'll always be fighting your old programming, and no amount of surface-level motivation will stick. Your identity is the lens through which you see the world, and it is built from the story you tell yourself about who you are. If that story is filled with limitations, past failures, or labels others have given you, it will act like a ceiling on your expectations. But when you consciously rewrite that story, when you begin to affirm and act as though you are the kind of person who wins, who adapts, who finds a way, your mind starts building a new framework to match it. The power of your subconscious mind teaches us that the inner picture we hold of ourselves is the command center for all our actions. If you expect to be average, your subconscious will filter opportunities to keep you there. If you expect to excel, it will begin delivering resources, ideas, and connections to make that image real. And this isn't just philosophy. Brain scans show that visualizing an outcome lights up the same neural pathways as physically experiencing it. You are rehearsing your success before it arrives. Take Winston Churchill as an example. During the darkest days of the Second World War, when Britain stood alone against overwhelming odds, Churchill's unshakable expectation of victory became the backbone of national morale. He refused to speak in terms of "if we win," and instead used "when we win." That subtle shift kept his mind and the minds of millions locked on a future worth fighting for. This is the same mental muscle you can train for your own battles, whether they involve building a business, improving your health, or repairing a relationship. One of the fastest ways to accelerate this shift is to create evidence loops. You deliberately engineer small wins that reinforce your new identity. For example, if you're retraining your brain to expect financial abundance, set a challenge to generate a small amount of extra income this week, something achievable yet deliberate. When you succeed, your subconscious begins filing away that experience as proof that you can create money on demand. Over time, those loops multiply, and your expectation becomes grounded in lived experience. And here's a key truth from the magic of thinking big. Most people aim too low, not because they lack capability, but because they fear the disappointment of missing. When you expect success, you reverse that logic. You aim higher precisely because you expect to find a way, and even if you fall short, you land far above where you would have been otherwise. In practical terms, this means structuring your weeks with built-in success triggers. Begin with a Sunday night review, where you set 3 top outcomes for the week outcomes, not just tasks. Visualize yourself having already achieved them. Then each morning, identify the single most important action that will move you toward one of those outcomes and tackle it first. This simple rhythm aligns your days with your expectations and prevents drift. Nikola Tesla once said his inventions came to him fully formed in his mind before he ever built them. He would run them in his imagination, testing and refining until they worked perfectly in his head. Only then would he construct them physically. This mental prototyping is another layer of training your brain to expect success. You see it, feel it, and solve problems in advance. So by the time you take action, you are already familiar with winning. Of course, we must also address resistance, the inner voice that tells you this is unrealistic, that you failed before and will fail again. The war of art calls this resistance the enemy of all creative and entrepreneurial endeavors. The way through it is not to argue with it, but to act in spite of it. Each time you take decisive action while that voice is screaming, you weaken its hold. Eventually, your expectation of success drowns it out entirely. Now, let's pull in a money mindset principle from Rich Dad Poor Dad and the Millionaire Mind. The wealthy do not merely hope for financial gain. They design their lives around it. They expect to profit from their time, energy, and assets. This expectation shapes their decisions. They learn skills that compound. They invest in networks that open doors. and they see every problem as a potential income source. By training your mind to expect financial wins, you start scanning the world for those angles automatically. But the expectation must be backed by preparation. Julius Caesar did not cross the Rubicon without years of building loyalty among his legions. Rockefeller did not walk into business meetings without meticulous research on his competitors. Expectation without preparation is just wishful thinking. The combination, however, becomes unstoppable. Here's an exercise to blend the two. Each morning, write down one opportunity you expect to find today and one preparation step you will take to be ready for it. Maybe you expect to meet a potential client. Your preparation could be refining your elevator pitch. Maybe you expect a breakthrough idea. Your preparation could be setting aside an hour for deep, uninterrupted work. This small ritual ties your mental state to tangible readiness. Abraham Lincoln offers another powerful example. Before he became president, Lincoln suffered repeated political defeats. Yet he carried an unshakable expectation that he was meant to lead and serve the nation. He used each loss as a lesson in strategy, communication, and resilience. By the time the highest office came within reach, he was both mentally prepared and deeply certain of his ability to fulfill it. That combination of inner conviction and learned skill is exactly what we are aiming for here. And remember, as we build this mindset, your environment is still the silent partner in your success. From the master key system to psycho-cybernetics, the pattern is clear. Immerse yourself in surroundings, both physical and social, that reinforce the identity you're creating. If you're expecting success but spending all your time with people who expect failure, you're working uphill. Shift your circle, and you shift your expectations by default. By now, you can probably feel a shift just from hearing these stories and principles. That's no accident. Your brain responds to repeated exposure, and the more you saturate your mind with success narratives, the more natural it becomes to assume your own. Which is why I'll say it again: if you're ready to keep rewiring this expectation until it becomes part of your DNA, hit subscribe and stay in this environment. That single action could be the pivot point for the next decade of your life. Let's take a step deeper into the mechanics. The compound effect works in your favor only if you are consistent. This is where weekly accountability becomes critical. Find a way to measure not just your results, but your adherence to the practices that create those results. Did you do your morning visualization 5 out of 7 days? Did you track your nightly success audit without skipping? The very act of tracking keeps your focus sharp and your expectations high. Leonidas of Sparta, facing the overwhelming Persian army at Thermopylae, held the line not because he believed he would live, but because he expected his stand to buy the time needed for the Greek forces to unite and win the larger war. He acted with certainty in his mission, and that certainty carried through his men. In your life, you may not face literal armies, but your challenges will test your ability to hold the line in the face of pressure. That's when your trained expectation becomes your greatest weapon. From here, we can start designing the deeper rituals that will lock this state into place. So even under stress, your brain's default is still to look for ways forward instead of ways out. One of the most reliable rituals to lock in this state is the expectation visualization, and it is more precise than general daydreaming. You sit down, close your eyes, and run through a mental movie of your desired outcome as if it is happening now. You feel the weight of the pen as you sign the contract. You hear the tone of congratulations in someone's voice. You sense the calm pride of completing the goal. The more sensory detail you add, the more your subconscious accepts it as reality. Over time, it begins to close the gap between what you've rehearsed and what you experience. The science of getting rich explains that your thoughts, held with faith and acted on with persistence, create a magnetic pull toward their physical counterpart. This doesn't replace action, it fuels it. When you've already seen and felt your success in your mind, your actions carry a conviction that others notice. Opportunities tend to flow to those who move with certainty. This is why Napoleon Bonaparte, even in his youth, projected an aura of inevitable victory. His soldiers followed him into battles where they were outnumbered because he spoke and planned as though the outcome were predetermined. He wasn't simply inspiring them, He had conditioned his own mind so thoroughly that his confidence became contagious. That same transference happens in business meetings, job interviews, and personal negotiations when you expect success. But confidence alone will not hold if it is not supported by consistent evidence. That's why I urge you to build a success ledger. Keep a running document, digital or in a journal, where you record every win, every goal achieved, every time something went in your favor. On days when doubt creeps in, review it. This turns abstract belief into a tangible archive of proof, reinforcing your expectation. From a neuroscience perspective, this works because each review reactivates the neural pathways associated with those successes, strengthening them like muscles. Over time, the pathways for doubt weaken simply from lack of use. You are literally rewiring your brain to default to confidence. Let's add a wealth-building twist to this. When you expect financial success, you also prepare for it by building the systems that can handle it. This means opening the accounts before the money comes in, setting up the budget before the income increases, learning about investments before you have excess capital. This readiness sends a powerful message to your subconscious. We are expecting growth, and we are ready for it. Cornelius Vanderbilt understood this instinctively. Long before his shipping empire dominated American commerce, he had systems in place to expand rapidly. When opportunities appeared, he was not scrambling, he was prepared. That readiness, built from expectation, allowed him to seize advantages others missed. Your own preparation might mean upgrading your skills before the promotion, practicing your sales pitch before the meeting, or organizing your workspace before the influx of clients. These are not just practical steps, they are declarations of belief. You are telling your mind and the world, I am ready to receive what I expect. Now, there's a subtle but crucial part of this process: the language you use with yourself and others. Words shape expectations. If you consistently speak in terms of if and maybe, you plant seeds of uncertainty. Shift to when and I will, and you strengthen the mental framework of inevitability. This is not empty bravado, it's disciplined speech designed to align your thoughts, words, and actions. John D. Rockefeller, in his early business dealings, was known for speaking of his ventures in terms of their future scale and impact, even when they were still small. His language set a tone not only for himself but for investors and partners, creating a shared vision that drew resources to him. This is why I encourage you to monitor your self-talk as closely as your diet. Your brain is listening, and every word reinforces either the old identity or the new one you're building. Catch yourself when you minimize your potential or hedge your statements, and replace them with language that assumes growth. And remember, the habits that support this expectation must be sustained, not just sparked by temporary motivation. This is why building a community around you is invaluable. The law of success teaches that a mastermind group people aligned with your goals creates a multiplying effect on your confidence and results. When you share wins and challenges with a circle that already expects you to succeed, you borrow their belief until yours becomes unshakable. On a practical note, one weekly habit that will anchor your progress is the victory meeting. Set aside 30 minutes each week to review the successes, large and small, from the past 7 days, and to set 3 non-negotiable wins for the week ahead. This rhythm keeps your mind tuned to progress and prevents drift into reactive living. Theodore Roosevelt embodied this proactive mindset. Even after being shot in the chest during a campaign speech, he insisted on finishing his address, operating from an expectation that his mission and momentum would not be stopped. That level of mental fortitude doesn't appear overnight. It's forged through years of conditioning the mind to see obstacles as mere delays, never dead ends. And here is a simple but profound truth. When you expect success, you make decisions faster. Indecision is often a symptom of fear, of secretly expecting failure. When your baseline is, I will make this work, you stop wasting time in hesitation. You decide, you act, and you adjust as needed. Speed becomes a competitive advantage. As we move forward, I want you to start layering these elements: visualization, language, preparation, environment, tracking, and community into a cohesive system. One by itself will shift you slightly. Together, they will change the trajectory of your entire life. The first layer in this system is your morning mental conditioning. This is where you program your brain for the day ahead before the world's noise gets to you. Within the first 30 minutes of waking, you spend a few minutes in stillness, focusing on what you want to happen, not what you fear. You picture the best possible outcomes, feel the satisfaction of them already being real, and then declare them out loud. This primes your subconscious to work in alignment with your conscious goals throughout the day. The second layer is your action priority. The moment your workday begins, you attack the most critical task that will move you closer to one of your primary goals. This is the slight edge in motion, tiny consistent steps that create massive results over time. Even if the rest of the day is chaotic, that one decisive action is a win, and your brain learns to associate each morning with forward movement. The third layer is your proof loop tracking. Every evening, you document your wins, no matter how small. A meaningful conversation, a solved problem, a completed workout all go into the ledger. These records are the bricks in the mental fortress of your expectation. Over time, when doubt tries to creep in, you can point to undeniable evidence that you are progressing and that success is your pattern, not an exception. Andrew Carnegie was a master of this layering. He not only envisioned massive steel empires, he mapped the steps, executed daily, and surrounded himself with people whose belief matched his own. His expectation was supported by a structure that made the outcome almost inevitable. That's the model you're building, belief fortified by consistent execution. Now, let's integrate a psychological insight, the brain's bias toward confirming what it already believes. Psychologists call this confirmation bias, and it is often blamed for reinforcing negative patterns. But when you deliberately train your mind to expect success, that same bias works for you. You begin noticing proof that your goals are attainable, that opportunities are everywhere, and that people are willing to help. This creates a feedback loop where belief fuels results, and results strengthen belief. To accelerate this, I recommend a weekly success scan. Take an hour to look back at the week and identify moments where things went better than expected. Write down not just the result, but what you did to influence it. This teaches your mind to link your actions to positive outcomes, further embedding the expectation that you can shape your reality. Let's look at a historical parallel. Isaac Newton, in his relentless pursuit of understanding, expected the universe to reveal its laws to him. He didn't passively wait for inspiration, he investigated, tested, and refined, operating under the conviction that answers were there to be found. That certainty drove him to breakthroughs that changed human history. In your own life, that same conviction will push you to keep seeking solutions long after others have given up. And it's worth saying, expecting success is not about never feeling doubt or fear. Even the greats had moments of uncertainty. The difference is, they trained themselves to act as if success was inevitable, despite the uncertainty. Over time, that behavior rewired their emotional responses. Here's a practice to build that muscle. When faced with a challenge, immediately write down 3 ways it could work out in your favor. They don't have to be perfect, or even likely. What matters is that you force your brain to generate solutions instead of dwelling on problems. This shifts your focus from avoidance to anticipation, from fear to opportunity. Benjamin Franklin used a similar exercise in his personal journals, reframing obstacles as experiments. If something failed, he documented what he learned and how he could apply it in a different way. This habit made him resilient, resourceful, and perpetually expectant of eventual success. Now, I want to anchor this with a wealth principle. The more you expect to succeed financially, the more you treat your time, energy, and attention as valuable assets. You stop spending them carelessly. You begin investing them in activities, relationships, and skills that compound over time. This shift alone can transform your income and net worth in a matter of years. One modern application is to audit your calendar and your budget through the lens of expectation. Ask yourself, if I truly expected to be earning twice as much within the next year, would I still be spending my time and money this way? The answer will expose habits and commitments that don't align with your future, giving you the chance to realign now. And yes, this takes discipline. It's easy to slip back into reacting to life instead of shaping it, which is why your system must be non-negotiable. Even when you're tired, busy, or uninspired, you show up for your rituals. Each repetition is a signal to your subconscious. This is who I am now. Genghis Khan exemplified this relentless consistency. His campaigns were not won solely by overwhelming force, but by disciplined systems of communication, strategy, and adaptation. He expected victory, not because he wished for it, but because his daily discipline made it probable. If you hold to this process, conditioning your mind each morning, prioritizing decisive action, tracking your wins, scanning for success patterns, reframing challenges, and guarding your time, you will start to feel a quiet inevitability about your future. And the world, sensing that certainty, will begin to respond accordingly. There's another layer to this transformation that most people overlook: emotional calibration. Your emotions are not just reactions. They are signals that influence your choices and behavior. If you expect failure, you live in a state of guardedness, tension, and hesitation. But when you train your brain to expect success, your dominant emotional state shifts toward openness, confidence, and curiosity. Those emotions change how people interact with you, which in turn shapes the opportunities you receive. The power of now emphasizes the importance of presence in this process. When you are present, you are not reliving past mistakes or forecasting disaster. You are fully engaged in the current moment, which is where your actions can actually influence outcomes. Expectation of success is most potent when rooted in the present, because it allows you to take the right actions now rather than waiting for some ideal future. Mahatma Gandhi embodied this in his nonviolent movement. His expectation was not merely political independence. It was the transformation of an entire people's mindset toward dignity and self-determination. Even in the face of violence and imprisonment, he maintained a state of calm certainty, rooted in the present but unwavering in vision. His demeanor became a living demonstration of what he expected for the nation. In your own life, emotional calibration means practicing the state you want to live in before the evidence appears. If you want to be the confident entrepreneur, you bring that energy into the room even when your bank account is still modest. If you want to be the healthy, fit individual, you carry yourself with that vitality, even before the results are fully visible. This is not faking, it's embodying the identity you're moving toward. Here's a practical drill. Pick one high-value state: confidence, focus, gratitude, and deliberately practice holding it for 5 minutes a day. Set a timer, close your eyes, and breathe as if you already have the result you desire. Let your body feel the relaxation or energy that would come from that outcome. Over weeks, this becomes your emotional default, and your actions begin to match it automatically. Leonardo da Vinci understood the power of state. His journals reveal not only technical sketches, but observations about mood, attention, and curiosity. He guarded his mental and emotional state as carefully as his creative process, knowing that the quality of his inner world determined the quality of his work. Another dimension to expecting success is building what I call inevitability structures. These are external systems that make success more likely than failure. For instance, scheduling public commitments, joining accountability groups, or automating parts of your work so that consistency is built in. When you remove as many decision points as possible, you reduce the chance of falling back into old patterns. The strangest secret makes it plain. You become what you think about most of the time. But thinking alone is fragile. It's too easy to get distracted. Structures keep your thoughts, and therefore your expectations, on track. For example, if your goal is to build wealth, automatically divert a percentage of income into investments before you ever see it in your spending account. That physical action reinforces the mental expectation of growth. Let's bring in a historical case. J.P. Morgan, one of the most influential financiers in history, created layers of alliances, information networks, and operational systems that made his success in business nearly inevitable. He didn't just hope for profitable deals. He set up mechanisms to ensure that profitable opportunities flowed to him first. This is the practical expression of expecting success. You don't leave it to chance. You can do this in your personal development by automating reminders for your success rituals, setting recurring appointments for review, or arranging your environment so the path of least resistance is always the one that supports your goals. Over time, your expectation of success is not just mental, it's embedded into the structure of your life. And here's where we merge the mental and the practical. Start living in alignment with the future you expect. Now, if you expect to run a thriving business, design your calendar as if you already have high-value clients, reserving time for strategy, learning, and rest. If you expect to be in top physical condition, schedule your workouts and meal preparation as if they are non-negotiable parts of your identity. Marcus Aurelius lived this alignment. As emperor, he could have indulged in comfort and delegated everything. Instead, he disciplined himself to rise early, write his reflections, and act with integrity, as if the empire's stability depended entirely on his personal conduct, which, in many ways, it did. His expectation of being a just and capable leader shaped every decision he made. So here's your challenge for the next week. Each morning, spend 5 minutes in visualization. Speak one outcome as a certainty, take one decisive action toward it, and log one win in your success ledger. This sequence, repeated daily, begins the rewiring process. You're not just hoping, you're training your mind to assume that the results you want are on their way, and you're matching that assumption with consistent proof. And if you've been resonating with this process so far, now is the time to subscribe so you can stay in the mental environment that will reinforce it every day. Because the truth is, no matter how strong your willpower, environment always wins, and surrounding yourself with success-focused content and community will keep your expectations high when life tries to pull them down. From here, we'll move into integrating strategic reflection so that every week, month, and year becomes a compounding force for your success expectation rather than a cycle of random highs and lows. Strategic reflection is the hidden multiplier that turns scattered effort into exponential growth. Most people live reactively, treating their days like single, isolated events. But the truly successful operate with cycles of deliberate review, extracting patterns, adjusting strategies, and locking in lessons before they fade. Think of it like navigation at sea. A captain doesn't just set a course and forget it. He regularly checks his position against the stars or compass, making micro-adjustments to avoid drifting hundreds of miles off target. In life, those stars are your key metrics, your progress logs, and your personal sense of alignment. Benjamin Franklin mastered this. He famously ended each day by asking, "What good have I done today?" and began each morning with, "What good shall I do this day?" This wasn't just moral reflection, it was a performance system. By continually calibrating his behavior to his ideals, Franklin kept his life trajectory aligned with his long-term expectations. Here's how you can build your own reflection system. Daily micro-reflection. 5 minutes. Morning. Review your top 3 priorities. State your core identity. I am the kind of person who, and anticipate one challenge you'll handle well. End close. Evening. Note 3 wins, no matter how small, and 1 lesson learned. This shifts your brain to notice progress rather than problems. Weekly review. 30-45 minutes. Assess the week's main achievements and setbacks. Ask, what moved me closer to my vision? What slowed me down? Adjust your next week's plan to double down on what worked and eliminate friction. Monthly reset. 60-90 minutes. Compare actual results with your quarterly goals. Identify skill gaps, resource needs, or habit weaknesses that need addressing. Refresh your success vision to keep it emotionally charged and motivating. Without these reflection points, you risk the illusion of progress, where you're busy but not actually advancing toward your desired life. With them, you become a self-correcting system, always moving closer to the expectation you've set. One of the reasons this works so powerfully is neuroplasticity. Your brain rewires itself faster when you actively evaluate and reinforce behaviors. Reflection consolidates learning, turning today's effort into tomorrow's instinct. Winston Churchill leveraged this in wartime. His relentless nightly reviews of intelligence reports, battle maps, and correspondence allowed him to spot emerging threats and opportunities before they became obvious. That wasn't paranoia, it was proactive expectation management. He expected victory, and his review process ensured his decisions were aligned with that expectation. When you practice this, you'll notice something interesting. Your belief in your own success stops being fragile. You no longer need constant emotional hype because your system keeps proving to you, week after week, that you're moving forward. Confidence becomes a byproduct of evidence, not just affirmation. And this is where the compounding effect truly kicks in. When daily intention meets weekly refinement and monthly recalibration, your trajectory sharpens. 1 year from now, your life can look unrecognizably better, not because of one big leap, but because you repeatedly expected success, acted accordingly, and corrected course without hesitation. If we stop here, you have enough to build an unstoppable expectation framework. But if we go further, I can show you how to install success triggers in your environment so that your surroundings automatically push you into the mindset and behaviors you've been working to build without requiring constant willpower. That's where expectation becomes effortless. Environmental success triggers are the invisible architecture of your life. The subtle cues, placements, and structures that pull you toward winning behaviors automatically. Most people unknowingly design their environment for distraction and delay. The high performers design theirs for momentum and focus. Here's the principle. If success depends on you always making the right choice in the heat of the moment, you will fail. If success is built into the path of least resistance, you will win. Think about a professional athlete's locker room. The shoes are lined up, the gear is ready, the route to the field is clear. Nothing in that space invites procrastination, it's all designed for immediate engagement. You can apply the same principle to your life. 1. Prime your mornings before you sleep. Lay out your workout clothes, water bottle, and training shoes before bed. Place your journal or reflection page on your desk, open to the exact spot where you'll write. Put your phone across the room on airplane mode, forcing you to get up before you touch it. These tiny setups make your default action the right action. 2. Build trigger zones in your home or office. A deep work corner with only the tools for your most important task, no unrelated gadgets or distractions. A reading chair with a book already open to your next page. A creative station where your camera, notebook, or instruments are always ready, not packed away. When each space has one clear purpose, entering it instantly cues the right behavior. 3. Use friction to block failure. High achievers don't just make success easy, they make failure annoying. Put snacks you're avoiding on the highest shelf, or remove them entirely. Log out of distracting apps and delete their shortcuts. Require 2 steps to open TV or streaming apps, but 1 step to open your task manager. Your brain takes the path of least resistance. Stack the odds in your favor. 4. Automate the success signal. Link a cue in your environment to your identity. For example, a certain playlist, focus mode, a specific scent, essential oils, candle. Writing time, a timer set for 50 minutes. Deep work, sprint. When repeated enough, your body responds to the signal automatically. You feel in state before you even start. 5. Guard your expectation field. Your environment isn't just physical, it's social and digital. Curate your online feeds so every scroll reinforces your mission. Limit time around people who pull your expectations downward. Regularly expose yourself to environments that normalize your next-level places, people, and conversations that make your goal feel ordinary. Jim Rohn was right. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But in today's world, that includes the 5 channels you watch, the 5 accounts you follow, and the 5 conversations you replay in your head. When you do this right, something profound happens. Success stops feeling like a constant uphill battle. you begin to notice that your habits, your spaces, and even your casual choices are quietly working in your favor. This is when expectation becomes reality without friction. And here's the kicker. Your environment starts reinforcing your identity, and your identity reinforces your expectations. You stop trying to be the person who wins you, just are that person. If you want, I can now take this full circle and show you how to stack these environmental triggers with your daily reflection system. So you create a closed loop, a self-reinforcing cycle where every action, environment, and review keeps tightening your aim on success until missing is nearly impossible. All right, let's close the loop. You've now seen how clarity of expectation and environmental triggers set the stage. But a stage without a performance is just an empty room. You need a feedback loop, a system that ensures every day moves you forward, course corrects quickly, and compounds results over time. This is where the daily alignment cycle comes in. It has 3 parts: preload, execute, reflect. 1. Preload. Night, before, or morning. This is your intentional ignition. Before the day starts, you set the exact conditions for success. MIT. 3 MITs. Most important tasks. No more than 3 high-leverage actions for the day. Micro-win anchor. The smallest, easiest win you can start with. Build momentum. Environment check. Ensure your success triggers are set. Close out. Workspace clean. Tools ready. This way, when you wake up, you're not deciding, you're executing. 2. Here's the secret. Execution is not about motivation, it's about structure. M. Time block your MITs. In your calendar, use a success signal, playlist, location, timer, to lock in state before starting. Enforce task boundaries. When the timer is up, stop. This prevents burnout and maintains the habit of consistent output. Execution should feel like following a track, not hacking through the jungle every morning. 3. Reflect. Night review. This is where ADS, self-correction, happens before failure compounds. Ask yourself, 1. What moved me forward today? Double down tomorrow. 2. What slowed me down? Eliminate or adjust. 5 Herdy and Dresden. 2-1. Number 3. What's my one win for tomorrow? Set the next target before bed. Number 3. This keeps your goals alive in your subconscious overnight, priming you for action the next day. The compounding effect. When you combine expectations that lock in identity. 19. Environments that trigger right actions. AIT. Reflection loops that constantly refine. You build compound momentum. The first week, it feels like discipline. The first month, it feels like flow. By month 3, it's identity. You are simply the type of person who wins daily. Here's the truth most people miss. You don't find success, you build a machine that produces it. And when that machine runs every day, success becomes inevitable, just as surely as gravity pulls objects down. Champions, your mind has been forged a little stronger today, but the real test isn't what you learned, it's what you do with it. Take action, dominate your day, and remember, we're not just building better thoughts, we're forging unstoppable lives. The forge doesn't stop, and neither do you. If this episode hit you where it counts, subscribe to Mental Forge Academy and join the Brotherhood of Champions who refuse to settle for ordinary. Go transform, strike while the mind is hot.